Welcome back to the Julian J. Franco Show, a show where I bring to you people who I find to be genuine, not only in front of the camera, but behind the scenes. And today's episode is a rare one, and it's a really special one to me. Why? Because this individual is somebody who I met online. Yes, online. I was just on Instagram, and she goes by the name of Tabby Luna on her Instagram account. So you can go check it out. But why? Why did I want to interview her, right? Somebody who I've never met in person, somebody who I didn't know about until I was just scrolling through their posts. What really fascinated me about who she is her captions, right? Like the things that she posts about, the things that she talks about, but her fantastic way of being able to articulate thoughts that I have, things that I have in my head, but I can't really describe it. I can't really explain it to other people. She's able to do that. So when I read her post, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always felt this way. This is something I've always struggled with. Or listen, I can talk your ear off, but I want her to talk your ear off because I'm so excited to have her. But before we even begin, how are you feeling today?
Hi. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful introduction. I hope I live up to it. Um, I feel great. I mean, this is kind of a whirlwind for me. I know when you approached me, I looked at the DM and I'm like, really? This is meant for me? Like, I'm just posting random things. So I appreciate you seeing me because just like you said about my captions saying how you feel, it's hard for me to feel seen with some of the thoughts I have. So for someone to like give me that validation in a moment that I really needed it, you know, was awesome. And then we had our chat on Instagram and I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to talk. Like, you never know who you're meeting or who you're talking to. So, and I'm a skeptical person by nature. So I'm looking at this message like, hmm, does this person want something? Like, so it's really cool to connect and to see people actually feel the things that I feel, and I'm not alone. And nobody is. And I think that's kind of the whole point of what I'm learning through what I'm doing on Instagram is learning that it's not just me, and I'm not thinking things that are out of other people's minds. Like it's really nice, really.
No, and it's yeah. So we both feel the same way. It is always nice. Now, just to jump right into things, why do you feel that so many people don't want to validate others, right? Like they don't want to acknowledge how special they truly are,
Mm.
or it's easier for people to belittle others and to, just make them feel small as opposed to, wow, I really appreciate that you're doing this for me in my life. And the reason I'm asking you that is because how we started with, you thanking me for seeing you and validating how special your posts are, right? And just your mindset and your thinking. But there was a caption that, again, I will never be able to reword it the way you did. But you basically spoke about, if you want me, you have to take me in my totality, not just bits and pieces of the energy that you want at that point in time, right? It's just like you're not a snack that you can just, pick up a few kernels of popcorn and then walk away and throw the bag on the floor, so to speak. So just speak to those two things. Why is it so easy for people just to dismiss somebody's
Mm.
beauty? You know what I mean? And also, why is it also easy for people to nitpick what they want from somebody and not take them as a whole?
I think those are really great questions, and I think about them a lot because when I really think about the deep root of it, I think that we live in a society that values narcissism. And a trait of narcissism is to ensure that you keep the people you want around you through belittling them into thinking that they can't have anyone else but you. So it's almost become second nature for us to act in narcissistic ways, because even if we look at big business, right? When you look at the traits of CEOs and the traits of narcissists, very similar. So we reward this. So we condition ourselves to be heartless, and we even, we see like how we glorify this, like F your feelings or whatever, and why. And so I think a lot of belittling people is because we all have this deep fear that if we don't manipulate people, they won't stay around. And that's a self issue. So we're all projecting these issues of the self onto everyone else. And instead of just, you can't expect someone to be real with you one-on-one if they don't see themselves. And there's like a lack of self-awareness that is encouraged in our society. Um, and so I think towards the belittling thing, that's what it is, that we don't know other ways to keep people around. And some people's family dynamic literally is like, oh, we joke like that. And it's like, some of these jokes are trauma, and we value thick skin and, things that are important. It's important to have a thick skin, but it's important to also know that you have a home base of people who are not trying to destroy you, you know? And so that's what I think it is. I think it's, at least in my life, it's been, through my analysis, a manipulation of trying to keep me, because when I'm doing things for other people, I get all the praise in the world. You're so smart. You're so resourceful. You're so, how did you think of that? But then the second that they see that that might lead me somewhere away from them, oh, what do you know? Who are you? You're not an expert. So it's this like passive aggressive back and forth to rope you in. And that's, to me, classic, psychological abuse. And this is something that we value socially. It's wild to me. So that's the belittling thing. The second question, why people want piecemeal versions, was that the second question? Okay, I had to, try not to go off too far on the tangent. I think for me, I know that I'm a lot, and I'm fine with being a lot. And I'm a kind of person who questions everything. Like, I went to Catholic school and I got in trouble almost every day because I just questioned. I questioned the nuns. And we would take religion class and I would ask these questions that they would just tell me like, no, this is it because I said so, but I can't accept because I said so. I just can't. And so what I think is, have you ever been around people who want to be around you, but when they're around you, they act like they don't want to be there? That's what it is for me. So I'm like, you don't even know what you want from me. You just know that I give you something. And so I interpret that as energy. Like, I like your energy. I want you around. You bring something here, but I don't necessarily want your thoughts. And I don't want anything that disagrees with me. I just want the battery, And I think that's what it is, that people don't want to look at the world through a different lens that challenges their own. And I'm just kind of all about that. I really like to challenge beliefs, even my own, because, some people get so deep into their beliefs that it becomes cult-like for them, and they associate themselves with their beliefs. And I know I'm not my beliefs. And people don't know that they're not their beliefs all the time. So when you challenge that, they think you're attacking me. And it's not that. So people would rather just be like, oh, I want the version of you that we hung out with at the bar. I don't want the version of you that is asking questions about what's going on in the world. I want you to, make me laugh, right? And I also think that was part of my healing process, because a lot of my own undoing was being able to read a room and then saying, okay, what's the best mask that I could put on to fit this room? Because it's just easier. It was never easier. Not for me. For them, it was. And I did a great service to many groups. And I'm happy that I could give that to you. But now I know that I was hurting myself. And so as I decided to be myself and step into myself in all of me, right? Not just the version of me in school, not just the version of me at this job, not just the version of me that is, tame for family functions, but me. Then it became like, oh, why do we have to talk about that? Or, still come over, still come through, but just talk about this list of things. And I think that's really what it is. So, I can't just blame it all on everybody else. I did it too. I decided that it would be easier to mold myself, and I was good at it, right? It's a thing I can do. I could bring it into astrology and say that it's my Capricorn rising that makes me put on a professional face. But whatever the reasoning, it is something I did and something I no longer want to do. And the second I decided I didn't want to, then it became a problem. But yeah, I hope I answered that.
Abby, you answered it above and beyond, and this has probably been one of my utmost favorite responses I've ever received to any question. And this is something that I'll literally, I'm already thinking in my creative mode. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a YouTube clip out of this. Like that's how good that was, because
Oh,
I
thank
know
you.
so many people resonate with what you just said, and the way you're able to, again, just articulate those words. I find it fascinating how people, they want to be around you, and they value you, they invite you over, but once you're in front of their face, they act as if you don't exist. And and you talked about the manipulation, and I just find it all to be so rich. Now, you seem like a person who is, there's a book, right? The gift of the sensitive child, so to speak. And when you talk about reading a room, it's more or less like you put your emotions on hold, and your antenna goes up to see where everybody else is, what their temperament is like. Are
Hmm.
they happy? Are they sad? Should I be joking? Should I be in my room? And that's very exhausting. But you do that because the other side effect of you just being yourself is you may get in trouble, right? You may get somebody
Hmm.
mad, somebody may get agitated. So you know what? Let me just please everybody. So for those listening who may still be at home with their parents, right? Or they may be in a relationship where they feel that way with their spouse, and it's so it's easy to tell them, well, find a different place, right? Find a different family, or find a different spouse. But say they're very deeply intertwined with that individual, whether it's a marriage, or you have businesses together, or it's your parents. How can you best help those individuals learn what you've learned now?
I think that's a great question. And, as soon as you started speaking, I was thinking about, oh my gosh, when I was 15 and I couldn't wait to leave my house. And, it is very easy to say, just move out, just, get a small loan of $1 million and, and go find your way. But realistically, we have to survive these these interactions. And I think if you're in a situation where you're with your parents and your parents are controlling you in that way, survival is of the utmost importance, right? Because I don't know, everyone has a different situation. And I would never say, damn it all to hell and just be as dangerous as you can. No, if you can read a room, and most likely you learn that from reading your parents, right? From reading, oh, dad came home and slammed the door. Let me go in my room for a little bit before, something happens. Whatever. You learn these things in childhood, right? And these traumas turn into skills later. So your ability to read a room does serve you until you don't need it anymore. I'm very grateful for this ability because it has helped me survive New York City subways my whole life. You know what I mean? When you see someone walk on the train and you're like, let me just move to another car, you know, survive. And the time that you take for you, don't give it to them. If you have to give yourself to them in their presence to survive, you do it. But in your own time, cultivate yourself, because it's so easy to get lost in it and to lose yourself in it and to associate with those people. Let's see, a few years ago, when I got my first reading from a medium, she told me, 85% of the energy that you have is not yours. And you're feeling all these emotions, but they're not yours. And I really had never thought of that concept before of something that I have not being mine. And one of the side effects of being a person who can read a room is that you absorb the emotion, right? Like, I know when someone's upset in a room before they know they're upset in a room. And that weighs on me. And then I'm like, how can I appease them before this blows up? Now you're taking on the emotional labor of people who don't even know their own emotions. So it's thankless work, you know? And you're doing it because you think, yes, I need to be safe, but also if I make them happy, then maybe next time I can avoid this situation. And then it becomes this like payment system of like, I owe you a good day. Now you owe me a good day. And then we get stuck in these weird cycles. So I think for me, my best advice would be survive as long as you can. You know, when you need to be in survival mode, but don't forget that you are important and that you have to reset how you reset. That might be a bath, that might be going for a walk, whatever you need to do to reset your energy after those interactions, which can be very draining, you have to give back to your own battery, because nobody else will. Nobody will know you're running on empty, you know, because that's a very particular skill. It's just, please everyone. And people will love you for it, but they won't love you. They'll just love that part of you that knows. And a lot of times people know that you're putting it on. You know what I mean? People know you're putting on, they just want you to now. Now they expect it. Now it's not a gift, it's an expectation. So set the boundaries in the safest way you can, whether that be, I need to keep my door closed at night, right? Small boundaries, things that, where you can step, because people are in abusive situations, and I can't give advice to, have someone defy an abuser in a way that might make them, might put them in a dangerous situation.
Okay. I thought you were only going to give me one slam dunk, but you just slam dunked it twice back to back. I mean, my gosh. You know what? When you're having a great conversation, when I no longer want to talk. You know what I mean? Like, I literally just want you to keep on, maybe for 2 hours if you can. Like, you just talk, talk, talk. And I just know that you're going to give so much richness to so many people listening. I love how you said how, what caused you so much suffering can sometimes develop into a skill set for the day-to-day life. And how you're not so black and white when it comes to people who are going through abusive situations, and they just can't, with a snap of a finger, change their whole dynamic or their family dynamic. So I think that's all rich. Now, one thing that I also wanted to touch on with you, because I see it all the time now, when people talk about gaslighting, right?
Mm.
And I think, and you knowing about psychological, tricks and that people do to one another and how they manipulate one another. If you're dealing with somebody who is a narcissist that also gaslights you, how would you approach interacting with them? And Tabby, I almost feel like we're on the Discovery Channel or the Animal Planet, where I'm like, if you run into a crocodile, how do you escape with all your limbs? Like, that's, I just want to see.
You might be safer with a crocodile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I'm just interested in, like, what would you do?
It's so on point that you asked it at this time, because I myself am working on boundaries, because I've been a person who has, let my boundaries slip, because I have been around many narcissists in my life. I didn't know they were narcissists until way later. But one of the things I have learned is that firm boundaries are key. Narcissists, if you give an inch, they take a mile. And they're very keen, they're good at mirroring emotions. So a lot of times you'll hear, people tell you exactly what you want to hear and then switch it up. There you go. So for me, if this is someone I just met, I'm very wary when I first meet people, and I just give a little bit, but that's because I had to learn that. When I was a kid, I used to tell my whole life story to anyone who would hear it, and then you don't realize, oh, these people are talking about me. Oh, they're using this information for their advantage. Oh, didn't think about that. Firm boundaries. And that's why it's so important to reflect on yourself and know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, a narcissist will take you and say, well, you're me now. You're one of mine now. And then next thing you know, you're in this tornado of craziness and you don't know what happened. You end up in situations you never wanted to be in, or out X amount of money because of some weird, crisis that happened. People will play on your emotions. And I think not just around narcissists, but around anyone new, I think in your gut initially when you meet someone, like, this might not be one of my people, right? It doesn't have to be good or bad. Nobody's all good, nobody's all bad. But if we don't, vibe, I know people are hating this word now, but if we don't feel it, then I'm not going to give more of myself. And a lot of it is, a lot of people have relationships because they'd rather have some than none. not because these are the relationships that are for me, but because it's better than being alone. You know, I have someone I can go out with for a drink. You know, those work friends where you're like, if I met them in real life, we wouldn't be friends, but I see them for 40 hours a week. So sure, we're friends. Those are those relationships that take you away from yourself because you give to it because you think, I'm having fun, but they're not for you. So then you get too deep. Now you got to cut off some weird relationship and it just gets messy. I feel like those are in the same vein for me, because I think that a lot of people have narcissistic tendencies without necessarily being like clinical narcissists. And there you could debate whether that's learned behavior or something you're born with, whatever. But I think initially on meeting someone, once you see that red flag, you got to be there for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And I've ignored a lot of red flags and it never served me, not once. So that's my kind of long-winded advice on that.
Well, listen, we love your long-winded advice, and whoever's listening, they're gonna be like, Julian, stop talking, just let her talk. I thought that was so fascinating, and it just shows the level of insight and awareness that you have and how much work you have done because hey, nobody's all good, nobody's all bad. That doesn't make them clinically, diagnosed, but everybody has certain tendencies of that. Because whenever you hear anybody speak in terms of this person is, or whatever, all people from Puerto Rico are, etc., or everybody who lives in New York is this, Tabby, I can't listen to them because anybody who generalizes anything or anyone, I'm already disassociated with whatever it is, the point that you're trying to land, because you don't know every female, right? You don't know every male. You don't know every side effect of a particular herb or medicine or whatever the case may be. And one thing before this interview, I said, "Oh, I just want to get her view on why society is the way it is today." And you already went into that, like without me even asking you. You already went into it. So I was like, "Gosh, she's good." But talking about a little bit about what you mentioned earlier, I noticed that everybody today they love to read books like the 48 Laws of Power, right? Or if it's not that book, they want to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So my question to you is why are people so obsessed with, gaining just any type of intellect over the next, right? So it's this individual type of how just a fleshly desire to be and do more than another and have more than another, right? More status, more resources. So that's one. And the other thing is why are people so, you said you're skeptical, and that's a really healthy thing to have. But Tabby, there's people who I find to be extremely intelligent, but for lack of better phrase, they think like sheep. And it's just like, and us knowing what we know about human behavior and
Mhm.
intelligence, we know we can't just say, "Hey, Tabby, I thought you were smart. How can you believe this?" We can't do that because we'll lose a friend, right? We'll lose somebody, a friend, a family member, doesn't matter who it is. So those are my two questions for you. Why is everybody so obsessed with psychological warfare and how to get gain something over the next person? And the second part of it is just like, why are there some really intellectually equipped individuals who believe garbage?
That second one, still, my mind twists over it every day because, I know a lot of intelligent people. And I really had to think about what is the difference between intelligence, like thinking outside of the box, critical thinking, versus the intelligence that we're told is intelligence, which is really just the ability to retain and regurgitate information. And there are many types of intelligence. Don't get me wrong. There's intelligence of the body, like gymnasts who know how to manipulate their body. That's a type of intelligence. There are so many types. So I think that we as a society have been conditioned to value the intelligence that doesn't require a lot of work. the intelligence that makes you just intelligent enough to do a good job, right? So, when we think about school, and it trains us to be on this 8-hour routine, 40 hours a week, right? And you're good at school. And I was a person who was very good at school because from a very young age, I said, it's not that I'm learning anything, it's that I'm playing the game of school and I'm doing well in the game of school. Excuse me while I turn on my overhead.
Yeah.
So, being good at school means being good at people pleasing, right? Every teacher wants a different thing. You've gone to school, right? Some teachers are lenient, some are strict. Some want this kind of answer, some want this kind. So that reading a room and reading people can make you really good at school without being someone who simply memorizes and spits out. And I think that the way that our higher education system is set up is that we're taught just enough to think that we're better than people, but not enough, like we're not really encouraged to think critically and to question our professors. They don't like that. you know and it's become this rite of passage, and on top of that, how much money you pay for school. So you think, well, I paid $50,000 and I got this degree, I must be smarter than these people, right? And I think that there's a lot of emotional manipulation in our society which puts virtue on certain things, like following the group. That's a virtuous thing, when in reality, just because you're following a group doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. The right thing exists outside of the construct that we live in, right? So it's almost easier to, for lack of a better term, think like a sheep, because that gives away your autonomy to someone else. Well, I didn't know any better, I was doing my job, right? So now you have no responsibility in the matter. And in the same way that it's like, I follow what they're telling me because there's an unconscious contract of safety. If I follow this, they will keep me safe. So no matter what I think, I'm going to follow my safety. And that's what it is. It's self-preservation disguised as virtue. And that's kind of my thinking on the education thing, and why certain people think in group think, and why things are so cult-like. And social media doesn't help it either, because now everything's a team. I'm team this, I'm team that, and now you associate with something, just like sports, where you say, we won the game, but you didn't play in the game. So what did you win? We're taught to associate with an idea. And I feel like my mind is going so many different places, because I'm also thinking about how corporations are now identified as people, right? So now we get this confusion where we have to be mindful of corporate interests because that's their feelings, because they're people now. So it's a lot of emotional manipulation on the part of many different systems. And I really can't blame anyone for not being informed in the ways that I am, because I could be wrong too. And it's me being right is not important to me. What's important to me is, did I think about this thoroughly? And did I come to my own conclusion? Or did I just accept what that person told me? And that's part of that skepticism too, because, I wasn't privileged enough to always feel safe in my life. So that makes me already skeptical of other people. There are people who have never had to question a thing because they've always been safe, and that's beautiful. But now you haven't been challenged in the way that makes you realize, oh, I need to think about this differently because it affects me. I think I answered the second one, but I'm not sure I answered the first one.
You answered everything. You answered everything. There's nothing that went unanswered here. Now, again, literally have 4 follow-up questions, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to dismiss them all. And I think one other thing that's important towards the end, I said, wow, this is so much, so much, so much. And if I have somebody like you, if you had the chance to teach anything, right, for, let's say, people who are in the 9th grade, from the 9th to 12th grade, And this is a topic or just a mindset that you'll be teaching people for what benefit? For the benefit of them going out into society better people.
Mm.
What would that topic be? And I know you have numerous because you're this is an exclusive for the Julian J. Franco show, but she will be writing a book. So just we'll talk more on that the next episode. But if there was one topic that you feel would really equip people to be better to one another, what would it be?
Knowing yourself.
But how does that work? Right?
There's so many ways. And so my husband and I talk a lot about these kinds of things. And I realized through years of discussing these, like having discussions with him, that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So, for example, meditate. Very general. Everyone should meditate. But it took me a long time to realize that meditating is not just sitting down and traditional meditation, right? Dance could be meditation. Writing could be meditation. So I think finding the process of knowing yourself is the process of unlearning everything else. So when I think about my likes and dislikes as a kid, like I used to love boy bands, I used to love NSYNC, I used to run home and watch TRL. Now, did I genuinely like that? Or did I watch a TV show that gave me the perfect programming that appealed to me, that made me like that? So I think it's just looking at all the things around you and thinking, do I actually believe this? Or did someone tell me this and now I believe it because I like them? Right? Did a celebrity that I like say something and now I believe that? Unlearning all of the things that stop you from being the most childlike version of yourself. And it all goes back to childhood. Everyone who's in psychology will say the same. It all goes back to childhood. And I think that finding your version of play is the most important thing. And I'm saying this as a person who's still finding it. What brought you joy as a child, if you engage in those activities throughout your life, it leads you to amazing places, amazing connections, amazing people that you would never know you wouldn't have known existed if you would have just continued following the group. So when I say know yourself, I mean know the things that make you tick, learn your body. That was another one for me. I ignored my body for years. Learn your body, learn what time you like to wake up, right? Little things, on the weekend, let yourself be free and see what your body does schedule wise. Oh, I get hungry at this time. That's another one. Even things like hunger are programmed into us. When I first started exploring intermittent fasting, the reason why I started it is because I was reading a post that said, are you actually hungry or is it just noon? And I thought, well, what does that mean? And then I was reading, people needed more food when they were doing more physically hard labor because food is energy, right? So if we live lifestyles that don't necessarily require us to be physically active for 8 hours straight. So when I started following those patterns of like, am I actually hungry? Let me take a break. Let me just go for a walk. And then I realized, wow, you could go a long time without eating, without really feeling anything. It's all psychological. So those things, those patterns of thinking, when you look in the mirror, what's your first thought? And really analyze yourself. The way that in English lit, you would analyze those books, analyze yourself. Look in the mirror and do you smile when you see yourself? Do you frown? Why? Why? Just like little kids. Why? But why? But keep asking yourself, why? And you'll get somewhere deep. And it inevitably ties back into childhood because, when you think about your first experience with shame, you're probably a kid, right? But you molded your behavior into adulthood based on that one experience of shame. So getting to know yourself, to me, is unlearning and becoming like the most beta, the most like little chibi version of you when you were a little baby. And I guess also in terms of things that are important to know, how to take care of yourself. whatever that means for you. Some people that's gardening, some people that's martial arts, some people that's driving. Whatever makes you feel like I can care for me, because then no, you'll be unshakable. You won't need anything from anyone, because that's why we get manipulated, because we think we can't meet our own needs and this person can. So let me just, do what I need to do to get to this person who can meet my needs or who can keep me safe. Um, and the more solid you are in yourself, the more unwavering you'll be in your resolve, for sure, for sure.
I'm speechless. I am speechless. As I'm listening to you talk, and I just want to acknowledge everything you said, and just how poetic just the words flow out. There's a difference between somebody who's using like $30 words when a 3-cent word can suffice, but
Mm.
your vocabulary, your whole delivery, the way you execute on what you feel is also genuine. It's also real. And I never feel like I'm a little student listening to my teacher talk. I feel like I got one of my best friends in the same room with me, and we're just flowing through a conversation. And so, with all that being said, why isn't this something that you do, or maybe you do it, and okay, you do, because you do have some like live sessions that you do on IG. So I guess that is your format. Okay, so I've answered my own question, but I believe you're the type of person that you have your own show, right? In which
Mhm.
every week you speak about something religiously, but you may not want to, arrest yourself like that, like, oh, every Friday at 5 o'clock I have to do this. But I just think that having a database where people who think the way you and I both think can just go and be like, this is my tribe. You know what I mean? I'm
Mm.
feeding my mind the richness that I need. So yeah, are you going to start a podcast? That's my question.
Okay. I do have a podcast.
Oh my.
Um, it is called Universal Laundry. It is on all the platforms.
Okay.
My husband and I do a podcast, and um, yeah, we've only done a few episodes, just kind of for funsies.
Mhm.
So I didn't really go into any of this with a plan. So how all of this started was last year around December of 2020. Do you remember on Instagram where there was that whole like, they're changing the terms and conditions and they're going to be able to use your photos or whatever? And so I was like, I don't know. It was a thing. It happens every few years when they say, we already know they're using our photos. We already know they're looking at us through the camera. We already know they're listening, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do this thing where I'm like, I got to do a clean sweep. So I deleted every personal picture and video off of my Instagram. And had been private for years. And, I never really was looking to get public like that. And then I just downloaded TikTok one day and I was like, let me see what this is about, because okay, I'm going back again. So I was a nanny for many years. And I loved being a nanny. I thought it was so fun. And I was a nanny for a lot of children with ADHD and a lot of children on the spectrum. And that's because I had worked in a preschool specifically for children on the spectrum. And so as a nanny, I worked with a lot of kids, and one of my longest assignments was with a 10-year-old boy who by the time I left, he was 13, 14. And he told me, oh, do you know what TikTok is? Because he knew that I was an internet kid. I'd always been an internet kid. From the second that MySpace came out, I was on it, right? Oh yeah, always. And so, Vine stopped being a thing, and we used to watch memes together, and he would say, did you hear about TikTok? And he would show me these videos, and I was like, these are terrible. I hate this. And I realized, oh, it's an algorithm. So it's showing him what he likes. So let me download it and see. I'm like always the tester for the new social media because I think it's fun. So then I started finding little things like gardening. Because in 2020, everyone was like, we're starting a garden. We have to. So I started looking for tips. And then I just found all these like philosophical theory videos and all kinds of stuff. So I downloaded them. And one day my phone was like, hey, you have no space left. So I said, oh no, where am I going to put these? So I just posted them on my Instagram page, not thinking anything of it. I was getting like 1 or 2 likes. Nobody that I know in real life really thinks like I do, or not nobody, but 99%, don't really think like I do. So I didn't get any response. And I was like, well, I'm saving this for me anyway. It doesn't matter. Didn't think anything of it. And for a few years, I've been friends with a really popular astrologer and tarot reader, Amber Khan, The Quietest Revolution. Amber is a lovely, wonderful person. And if you like monthly tarot readings and that kind of thing, she's great. So she messaged me and said, hey, please make your page public. And I'm like, hey, no, I'm not doing that. And, she let it go. 2 months passed by. Hey, you should really make your page public. And I was like, nah, I'll think about it. And then in March, she messaged me again and was like, seriously, please, like, make another page. If you don't want people that following you, just make another page and whatever, post them there. And she was like, I'm telling you, the second that you go public, we're doing this thing. Like, I want to share what you post. And in my mind, it's not really my stuff to post. I'm just collecting things that I like. And so I said, fine, March, I'll make it public, whatever, for a few days, see what happens. And she shared a bunch of stuff on her stories and her page. And I was like, oh, like, this is becoming a thing now. Like, I have like 400 followers. And not that it never really mattered to me, the number, because I'm still posting what I want. I'm still writing what I want. But it was scary to me because of that untrustworthy boundary that I told you I have, where I'm like, I don't want people to know me like that. And I don't want to have to answer to people's weird requests, because that's another thing that happens. You're on social media. People will ask you these weird questions and you're like, I'm just sitting behind my phone, So we kind of took off. And then I said, all right, we'll do a podcast, because I've been wanting to do one. And I got a microphone for Christmas. So I said, all right, we'll do a podcast. And so that's the podcast. We just talk about, just similar to how we're doing now. It's not so much question and answer, because we've been together for so long that we just go. And this is something we'd always been doing. Like, we would talk for 4 hours, while we were walking around the house talking about these topics. And then I thought, oh, well, if people are valuing this information, like, maybe I can contribute something valuable to someone else, or get feedback on my own thoughts that could help me see things a little differently too. And then, the pandemic happened, and I had the time to go more into it and have fun with it. And I still feel like I'm just having fun with it. Like, people ask me, what inspired you? Like, we're on TikTok. Like, I'm just having fun. And this is what I mean about the play thing, because I've never felt more connected than now, which is crazy, because we're just coming out of a time of quote unquote isolation. And I've never been able to find people who tell me that they feel the same way, which is more valuable to me than anything, because I felt crazy for years. Like, are you guys really not see these things? And it changed a lot for me. It changed my outlook on a lot of things. It changed my priorities. And I really feel like I took this far. And I don't know if I even answered what I was supposed to answer.
Oh, yes. And everybody listening is saying, yes, girl, you answered everything and then some. So,
You're gassing me up.
The reason I'm gassing you up all the way is because we gas up the wrong people. We gas up the wrong things. We propel things that should be shut down. And one of my jobs, I feel, on earth is just, whenever I see somebody doing something good, I'm going to go above and beyond, to the point where I'm annoying, to the point they go, yes, okay, I know, I'm the crap, or I'm the king, or I'm the queen. I want people to feel that, because when you do something wrong, guess what? There's no shortage of people that are going to tell you, oh my gosh, look at that mistake you made, and you're a big F up, and you should never did that, and you should know better. So when I see somebody who just innately, right off the bat, I'm like, wow, I want to inspire that individual to never stop. I want to let that individual know what you're doing is changing the world, as cliche as it sounds, because you change the world through other people, right? Like you get other people's antenna, they're on their phone, but for some reason, when they go to your post, they have to slow down and they go, hmm, what is she trying to say? Why did she write that? Why she posts all these TikTok videos, these 10 TikTok videos. Like, I gotta watch each and every one of them because this one is showing me how I can heal my immune system. This one is showing me how the government may be trying to mislead me with something. Just you're teaching people how to be critical thinkers, and that's something that we don't have enough of. And there's a dog in the back that needs to be walked right now. So we're gonna end it with your last question. If you could have anything in the world on a plate because it's your final day on Earth, what are you gonna be snacking on that day?
Oh, that is a really interesting way to end this. Oh my gosh. I would think like a fresh seeded, like watermelon with seeds. With seeds. It has to have the seeds.
You better cut it out because we're ending this. And I already have so many follow-up questions, but the fact that you said with seeds, it goes to just the system that we live in now where you can find fruits without their seeds. And I go, how is this even a thing? And
Does one reproduce without a seed?
but that's also the scary part too, right? It's like if they don't have the seeds and how can we garden? How can we create our own crops and live? It's
Yeah.
just it keeps going and going and going. And you see, ladies and gentlemen listening, that's what happens when you go into Tabby's world. You're just endlessly questioning things and it makes you critically think. And it's easy just to accept the worldly intelligence, right? What everybody tells us we should think and what we should do. That's an easy life. And guess what? We get many pats on the back because
Mm.
of it. Good girl, good boy. And that's what the educational system teaches us as well. But Tabby, this has been a total, total pleasure. I hope that I can get you at least, if not, my mind is saying once a week, but that's too much for anybody. But
Listen, I was ready to keep going. I had my 40 ounces of water here. I was like, it goes as long as it goes.
oh,
So,
so what we'll do is we'll cut this up. We'll cut it up. Well, this is your part one, and save that rest of the water. So don't actually drink it for the next time that we have another episode. And then until you finish the water is how long we keep going. I like
there we
that.
go.
And listen, thank you so much for everything that you do. I'm gonna make sure that I link your social media and your podcast. And I'm actually gonna start listening to it as well because I want to find out a bit more about just how you think. I think you have a really rich mind and you come through a lot of experiences and you came through on the other side better because of it. And I don't mean that you had to go through what you went through, but you're making the most out of what you went through. So,
Mm.
Abby, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. This has been a blast.